However, what we can do is, get an understanding of what we care about that's in common. I remember I testified in front of Congress, and at the end, they're like, anything else that y'all want to say? And I said, I just want to say, if y'all would start with where we all agree,
yes,
versus where we disagree, we would be so better off as a country. Like, just start with where we agree.
Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. I am over the moon excited about Omi Bell being on the show today. Omi, you are such a powerhouse, and I have been an admirer of you for a long time from afar. So having this pre-conversation where I'm like, we should have been recording that whole thing too, so that people could see kind of the behind the scenes, it would have been really interesting, but we will have many more conversations. You're the CEO of Black Girl Ventures. You're an advisor. You have podcasts, radio shows. You do so much to invest in the Black and Brown women founder community and make sure people know what's out there, what's for them, and you're an investor yourself. So thank you so much for everything you pour into the world.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation. We had some good conversation before, so I can't wait to jump into, 30 minutes is not enough. We are not going to have enough time today to get through everything that we want to say. So I'm excited.
Amazing. Well, let's start with this. You're known for the mantra, resist the urge to be average. Your community is Omi Homies. So take us back to that first spark for your journey into entrepreneurship. When did you realize that you wanted to build something that challenged the status quo?
Oh my goodness. Well, I've never been a good employee. And what I mean by that is I always wanted to change things and fix things that nobody wanted to fix. I was quick to identify hey, there's a problem with that system. I think we should do this. Whereas people didn't want to invest that time, and they just wanted to really keep dancing through the problem and saying we're solving the problem, but not really solving it. And that I was never satisfied with that. I was a teacher for 7 years, K through 12 education. I was a patent and trademark. I worked at the patent and trademark office as a patent examiner. My life has been so wild in terms of roles. I worked at workforce development manager, multi-million-dollar contracts. I have it in every one of those roles. I'd always rise to leadership and be I don't think I want to do this anymore, because I would want to push on things that people didn't want to push on. So I decided that I would go out into the community and start my own art organization. And that was one of my first stints into full-time entrepreneurship. And it was hard to start an art organization. I started it and it was running for a while. And I was I need to go back to work. That's how I ended up working in workforce development. And just along that path, I think there's a discovery of self. What do you really want? Who are you really trying to be? What is the message you're really trying to put out into the world? So when I say resist the urge to be average, it is you feel all these molds pressing against you. You got to be like this. You got to go here, get a degree. I got a degree. My degree is in computer science. Maybe that's also part of the reason why I'm always disrupting systems. But, this place that I sit as artist and computer scientist makes me the best leader. But I think it didn't feel that way working inside of different places that, like I said, I feel didn't want to address core issues, because it would be too, maybe, I don't know, shift the narrative for them. So I decided to build something that could shift the narratives that I want to see shift.
Amazing. And not a lot of people will take that full leap, right? A lot of times we'll know something's wrong or just not right. It doesn't sit well with us. We want to make some change, but not a lot of people take that leap into, for instance, Black Girl Ventures, funded over 550 under-resourced companies, impacted over 20,000 entrepreneurs. So when you were looking at these disruptions, what did you see that was the gap in this funding landscape and that made you realize, wow, this is a community that's highly overlooked? I mean, anything you're saying, you're preaching to the choir, right? But I think that we need disruption, but this is a very specialized form of disruption that shows that people have value. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that and what compelled you to go into this work.
Totally. So Black Girl Ventures, we are a nonprofit. We work to create access to capital, capacity, and community for under-resourced business owners. And when I say create, I mean create where there is none. So when we launched 10 years ago, we're going to be 10 years old this year. I launched Black Girl Ventures in September of 2016. You know, it's crazy because everybody's doing on social media. They're like, look back at 2016. I'm like, yeah, that if I look back at that, I could give you a whole lot of places that we were trying to move things forward. But initially, it was there's a stat that lets us know that less than 2% of women in general get access to venture capital, and less than 1% of Black and brown people get access to venture capital. And if you don't know, you know, the big tech world, venture capital is one of the major ways that people are scaling their businesses. You have these tech founders who've been invested in by different folks for, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars to build a Facebook or a TikTok or the platforms that we use every day, tech that we use all the time. Things are shifting a little bit now, though. So, like, initially, we launched under the guise that, okay, less than 1% of people getting access to capital. What could I do about that? That was crazy, by the way. Like, I'm one person, you know, like, what makes me think I can impact the fact that less than 1% of people are receiving access to capital? And I mean, like, when we look back 10 years, that needle has only moved slightly. So, what I realized is, like, I don't even know that that's necessarily what we should have. That was a spark, but not what we're measuring ourselves by. We know that the impact of servicing 20,000 founders means we've impacted at least 14,000 families, right? Like, we know that funding these founders is helping somebody put food on their table. It's helping somebody keep their kids in school. It's helping, like, it's helping independence, agency, confidence, women being caretakers. Like, you know, I think there's understanding the full breadth of what it means to be a woman in this society and the level of support that we need. So building that community has been everything. What we're looking at right now, though, is we're moving to a new narrative. We're looking at launching an initiative called Keep America Working. Because if people are losing jobs at the rate that they're losing them or exiting the workforce, what are they going to do? This level of talent has never exited the workforce in history. Like, this is a high level of talent. These people are going to either go start businesses or they're going to find businesses that they care about to work for. And we know, we always say small business is the backbone of America, but like, we don't make good on supporting them all the time as a society. And so we're like, you know what? Small business owners are going to have to prepare themselves to hire this talent. The talent that's exiting the workforce is going to have to prepare themselves to work for smaller businesses. And we want to be a part of that movement. How can we keep America working in any sense? Project-based work, contracts, fractional talent, you know, full-time, part-time. What does that look like? It's not going to look, nothing right now is going to look the way it looked in the last 10 years for the next 20 years. The damage that's being done for my government right now, some of it is just irreparable. And some of it is going to take years to try to undo or make good or restore humanity in certain ways. So our part in it, you know, I think that's the thing too, is like figuring out what your part in the change is. You don't have to solve everything. You don't have to solve every problem you could think of. There's so many problems and so many things that need solutions. Even if you're just a business owner, there's still so many things that need solutions. And so in that case, it was me saying, what part could I was a business owner before this. And I'm like, what, you know, I always, you know, been a business owner before Black Girl Ventures, but it's like, I didn't have access to capital. My mom used her retirement money to help me launch. I used my tax returns to buy machines for me to have do print work for like companies like hats, cups, mugs, things like that. So I knew the struggle firsthand.
Wow. And I was on the Intuit Small Business Council for 4 years. And after the pandemic, we went to DC and said, digital divide. Like, all these companies during the pandemic had to move online much faster than they had anticipated. And many of them failed because of that. But those that did get online and had websites where people could actually make purchases from were able to stay in business. Then the next year was AI Powers Main Street. We went back and talked to DC about, hey, some of the stuff SBA needs to also to understand AI and be trained in this so that you can also train small businesses. And guess what? Some of the money that's going out from the SBA needs to be allocated not just for physical locations, but for all of that tech infrastructure. The next one is payment systems, right? So it's great seeing a big company saying all these things to represent small businesses. And yeah, Intuit has a ton of small businesses in their ecosystem, but it still doesn't touch everybody. And it's still not going to provide access. So it really is people who are willing to put boots on the ground, start these movements like yourself, who are going to be the real change makers and open people's eyes. And I'm a serial entrepreneur myself, so I co-sign everything you're saying. Like, how do we get really great talent to also want to be invested with us? Because they can make a huge difference for our businesses, and we can make a huge difference and let them have the lifestyle they want with the income they want, the freedom, flexibility, all the things that we should be holding dear, but we don't if when we go to the corporate grind and we do those things that we are, we're in those spaces and places that say you belong here because, we have the fancy titles, we get the promotions, but then we're going, no, this is not for me.
Absolutely. And like we are living in an ecosystem where we all have to work together, whether we like it or not, whether we like each other or not, whether we have to figure out because we don't have room for the them versus us in a way that like people are trying to silo off into different segments of people. We just don't have space for that. Not like it should be us against whatever societal thing we're trying to work on. And it's just the humanity needs to be restored. I mean, like I said, we're always saying small business owners are the backbone of America. But partnership, to your point, big corporations can only do it for so much because they can't see. Like there's a place where you become so big where you just can't see the ground anymore. Right? You're operating at such a high level. So you gotta have strong partnerships. And that's like where we come in. So we work with amazing partners. We work with Nike. We work with PIMCO. We work with Visa. We work with we never work with Intuit, but I should hit them up. But we
Yeah.
have worked with
I have some introductions for you.
Okay, awesome. I would love that. But yeah, we realize that partnership is going to be the way.
Well, and let's talk about that because you also say, and I love these two words together, you are a diplomatically radical businesswoman. So, how do you balance the needs of being radical in this mission? Which, I mean, even saying it's radical grates me because it should not be considered radical,
Right.
but while also working with these brands that you've discussed, whether it's Nike, TikTok, Visa, PIMCO, other brands.
So the reason why I say diplomatically radical is because if you're viewed as too provocative or too radical, then you're put into a category of like activists. If you're just operating on full diplomacy, but you have things that you care about and you can't push them forward, then you end up in a different box of like professionalism. And I'm like, we need people who sit in the intersection of both. Where like it's like, hey, I can have a conversation with someone who believes the exact opposite of me. I tell people this all the time. People are just not ready to have conversations with people who believe the exact opposite that they believe. Like because like you can't keep shouting your logic at a person who just believes the exact opposite. If I believe it's red and you believe it's green and we're standing on that, there's no level of logic that's going to make me now believe that it's red, that it's green, right? Like, however, what we can do is, get an understanding of what we care about that's in common. I remember I testified in front of Congress, and at the end, they're like, anything else that y'all want to say? And I said, I just want to say, if y'all would start with where we all agree
Yes.
versus where we disagree, we would be so better off as a country. Like, just start with where we agree. This topic is something we all care about and can reach agree. I was testifying on the accredited investor definition. So right now, in order for you to be an accredited investor, and there's lots of movement on this, it may have halted now, but typically in order for you to be accredited as an investor, which means that you can give as much money as you want, you can invest it to anything you want to invest it in, startups wise. But if you're not accredited, then they cap you at a certain amount you can invest. I feel like that's not fair, but it's based off of like your net worth and excluding your primary residence is based off of how much money you make. And you have to make like over 200, like 250,000 or more. Okay. That's less than like 6% of the country is making $250,000 or more. So, I was arguing that if we lower it just a little bit, like if we lower it to $100,000, think about how many people we could let in. It's interesting because like politically, there's different sides of the fence. Democrats historically believe in lots of regulation. Republicans historically believe in no regulation. But both of them care in a sense about inclusion, right? Like I know it don't seem like that right now, but there are Democrats that do care about inclusion when it comes to finance in this way. Saying it to say, y'all, we agree on something. Let's talk about that, but we don't. And I think, and I would say that, that's a microcosm of what's happening in society, right down to sometimes your neighborhood association. You're like, can we just start with what we agree on? Okay. And then move your city council. Can we just start with what we agree on? And I just wish more people would do that. And I just feel like if we did, we see so much impact. But to Black Girl Ventures, well, we all know the women who, and we don't just serve women, we do have men, we do have, that's why we say under resourced. So under resourced businesses, we all know a thing that is true. We need more resources. We all know a thing that's true is that we're doing all we can to put resources into ourselves. Nobody's coming to save us. And starting with that, we can build community.
Powerful. Truly. I mean, it is. And so many times, I wasn't going to mention this here, but I do think some of your work, your spiritual work, probably also helps you with this attitude, because I know that my work with a former Zen monk, we were talking about this before we jumped on, has 100% helped me just live more presently, but also know that I'm going to try to affect the things that I can affect and change. But I'm not going to stress out too much about what I can't change. I'm just going to be here when everybody else is ready to meet me, or I'm going to do what I can to meet them where they're at and hopefully change some minds. But it doesn't do us any good to put anger into that. If it's not the right kind of anger, then we're not using that anger to make these changes, right? If we're just going to complain all day and just fight with people, no, what can we do to continue being disruptors?
I appreciate you bringing it up because I did yoga nidra this morning. Listen, it is in this economic climate, you need all kinds of regulation and energy tools to keep yourself together. So I am a certified breathwork facilitator. I also have a certification in yoga nidra, which is a sleep yoga. And I have a Reiki 1 and 2 certification. I've been thinking I'm going to go back and get my Reiki master, but trying to figure out the timing for that. And I came to this because in 2024, I took a 3-month sabbatical. What led me there was in about 2022, I got to a point where I was like, I can't do another thing. I can't raise another dollar. I can't have another conversation. I can't manage another employee. I don't have anything to give to anyone. I've been heads down, like working my behind off, trying to build this company and service others. And I care about that. And I knew that the work was too important to just not do. So I said, well, what do I need to do? And I needed a break. And at first my board was like, you going to do what now? You going to do what? I'm like, I need 3 months because I tried to take a week, took a couple of days. Tried to take 2 weeks, took a week. Tried to take a month, didn't take a month. Like every time I was like, it's not enough time. I need time so that when my brain reaches the point of like, oh, you're not doing anything. And it says, and then right then it's like, oh, now we need to do something, right? Like right at the end of your vacation, it's time to go back to work. Like there is not enough time. So I needed more time. And through that time, I started focusing on nervous system regulation. And I started realizing all of my anxiety, all of what looked like anger or looked like rushing people or looked like not even always being the best leader to my team. It was all having a unregulated nervous system. And so I was like, oh, I need to get into these tools, especially in a time like the news cycle and the social media and all the things, like so much is coming at you. Your body is absorbing a lot of that. And we don't always realize it. Like you got to figure out how you release. And it's not going to sleep ain't it. I was tired at a soul level. My soul was like, I can't take anymore. So I needed those tools. And like, these are really, really great tools. So the effort that I created behind it is called Boardrooms and Breathwork. And I've done breathwork for conferences of about 3 different conferences for childcare providers, the people who care for America's children. The SEIU, which is the California Union for Childcare Workers, brought me in. And I did breath work. They had never done breath work before. To look out into a room and see 100 childcare workers relaxing. I feel like I was just fulfilling my life's purpose, to be honest with you. If I was like, yes, this is what I want to be doing.
Nice.
Yeah.
For those listening, what's one thing, because I think we all are running on fumes. Like you said, even when you take a vacation, you have to go right back to work. But we all need a vacation. We need a reset from our vacations. I went to Alaska for the Northern Lights between Christmas and New Year's. It took me 5 days to get back to normal because it was 100 degrees colder there, like just all the different things. I just was at PodFest speaking over this past weekend. It took me 3 days. I mean, including the day I flew back, but because of the time differences and just the energy. that we're expending, even if it's really positive. So we need to think about those times. So, what is one thing that you would recommend to anybody listening right now if they're feeling in that space and place? They're frustrated, they're running on empty, they're on the verge of getting sick.
Oh, so one, don't let getting sick be your driver. No, you said me to say one, but I'm gonna
Okay,
well,
go for
okay.
it.
One thing is don't let getting sick be your driver. That's what I was like. I've had enough. I will not drive myself to the hospital over this, over working hard, over thinking I gotta be wherever. I'm gonna have to figure it out because I'm not doing that. But then a tool that I would recommend, Yoga Nidra is a tool I would recommend for sleep deficit. So because 20 to 30 minutes of Yoga Nidra gets you back 2 to 4 hours of sleep. And you can just go onto YouTube and search Yoga Nidra, Nidra. I also I don't have as much on my YouTube, but it's called Boardrooms and Breathwork. You can go check it out there. But there's this one woman that I follow that I usually do it with. And she has different timings. So she has a 20-minute one, a 30-minute one, a 50-minute one, a 10-minute one. Like you could just go and try it out. Her name is Allie Boothrod. She's really great. So you can go check that out. Breathwork, there are a couple breathwork facilitators. I don't see as many breathwork facilitators on YouTube, but you're more than welcome to visit my website, send me a note, omibell.com, OMIBELL.com. And I can advise you or set up some time with you to do a session. But breath work is an active meditation. So it's a little bit, in my opinion, like trying to sit in meditation can be hard and actually cause people more anxiety because you're not used to sitting quietly. So, so it's hard. So you're thinking, I got to clear my mind. I got to clear my mind. But you actually don't. However, when you're breathing or you're doing the breath pattern, it's active, so your mind has somewhere else to go. Yeah, so it tends to calm the body a little bit. There's also, if you need something like immediate, there's I can't I where for those who are listening verbally, I'll try to describe it, but there's alternate nostril breathing. So just hold down one side of your nostril, breathe in through the other, then close that one and breathe out through the other side. It's immediate relief for like anxiety or a moment where you're feeling a little bit like what is happening. That immediate relief. You can also fake it, like if you're at dinner, like you can also fake it like you're blowing your nose. You know, so, like tell people like if you're out and you're like, I don't want to look crazy doing this breath work, like you can literally like just cover your nose and do it. Nobody will think twice about it because they'll think you're blowing your nose. So when you're at that dinner table and that one family member, you're like, eek, I don't want to talk to them. It's a good tool to like use.
Amazing. I'm going to jump back into the work that you started at Black Girl Ventures. I love that you have these techniques, and I wrote down some names because I'm always looking at what else can I do to be better and be more present and take that time because we need those breaks. And if you're listening to this and you're not putting that time in, do it because this is when we do get sick, when we start failing, when we're not putting time into our families. And because this is just the teaser part 1 episode, because I have so many more questions that we can get to in 30 minutes. Walk us through the early days of Black Girl Ventures. How did you get from the process and the idea of thinking about changing access to capital to writing those first checks to entrepreneurs? And then the next question is going to be like, what does that funding process look like now?
Yeah. Okay. So taking it back to the beginning of BGV. Ooh, okay. So let's take it back a little to like why I started. So I got laid off twice and I was engaged and my engagement didn't work out. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I'm smart. I got laid off. I'm also not going to get married to this person and also had a new baby. So I'm like, what is going on? Like, my life is not about to look the way I thought it was going to look. What am I going to do? And I committed to myself that I would never go back to a job where somebody can just lay me off. I was going to try every single skill I had ever learned to try and make money from it. And so I started just thinking, what could I do with my hands? I started building furniture. I started painting. I started just trying to figure out what I could do. And at a previous job, I learned to print t-shirts. And so I launched a t-shirt line called Made by a Black Woman, got it rolling. We were moving and shaking. And I created a company. It went to 6 figures. My lifestyle changed, all those things. And I'm like, okay, I got it. But one of the first things I tried was I built a teepee in my living room and I rented it out on Airbnb. And everybody thought I was crazy. They were like, nobody's gonna sleep in your living room in a TP. I'm like, yes, they will. Airbnb has a TP option. My thought behind it is if you don't have an extra room, you can't make money off of Airbnb. What could you do? My thought behind it was if you were traveling, a traveling woman, how could you stay with another woman and that'd be safer? Like I was having multiple thoughts around the social impact of it. So like social impact was already a part of my life, like always, from being a teacher, from being a single mom, from even this crazy idea to launch a TP in my living room, which people thought I was losing it, but it worked. A woman came and slept in the TP, but after that, I figured I didn't want nobody sleeping in my living room in the TP. But it worked out. After that, I was like, I can make anything work. So I started trying other things. Lots of t-shirt company. It started working, but it's a hard business. It makes money, like t-shirt printing. I started work with Amazon and Google, printing t-shirts, cups, mugs, backpacks, whatever they needed. That business was growing, but I wasn't necessarily happy with that. And so I had little life while I was a performance poet. So I done performance poetry too. So I took that and launched a brunch, put that together with business. 30 women showed up. I cooked all the food myself. We voted with marbles and coffee mugs. So if you like a person's pitch, you put a marble in their coffee mug. And what I did was I raised money at the door, like $5 to get in. And whoever got the most marbles in their coffee mug, we gave that capital to them. Nobody's coming to save us, but who will help us is each other, especially if there's an experience that we can engage in to do so. And so that's really what I discovered. And so I was like, oh, this works. So I just kept doing it and doing it. And even to this day, our pitch competition is crowdfunded. So we have partners that give more capital, but we hold a live pitch competition. Founders have 7 days to raise capital and then to raise their capital on their own. And what we know now is we created a safe to fail environment. So many times raising capital is so do or die and so hard. Well, we're like, well, look, any capital you raise, you're gonna get some of that back. Plus, if you go hard on it and you raise at a certain level, I built a tech platform to handle voting and donating, which will give you a score. And with that score, you can now win even more money for your efforts. And sometimes we have partners that match up to a certain dollar amount for everyone. So we want to create an environment where people can actually engage in pitching in a safe way and it not be so like all or nothing. Oh, 3 people tell you, oh, we liked your business or we didn't. And then you don't get access to capital, So I think part of that is the premise behind why we do what we do. Now, how you get access to capital from us now is we do have an investment arm, but typically that investment arm is you have to have come through some of the programming first. So we have training programs, so we focus on capital capacity community. So we have events, but we have the pitch competition, which is crowdfunded, our Emerging Leaders Fellowship, which you also get a stipend for being a part of, which ends in the pitch competition. So sometimes we'll just have grants too. So I would say get on our email list at blackgirlventures.org because we're always putting out opportunities, and follow us on social media as well at Black Girl Ventures because we're always throwing out resources.
You are so good at this that you know how to throw out all of your websites and YouTubes yourself, which is amazing. I'm going to stop here because there are so many more questions that I want to ask you about the events, the leaders you've trained, the $1 Billion Network, your book, all of these other things that you've done. And so we're going to save that, listeners, for part 2 so that we can give the time and intentionality that we want to these conversations. Omi, I'm so thrilled that we finally made it here. I'm so thrilled that you joined me, and I cannot wait to see what we're going to build together because, y'all, there are several things that we talked about. We probably ate into our time today because there's so many things that we want to do together. So thank you to everybody who is listening to this episode. Stay tuned for part 2. Omi, thank you so much for blessing us today.
Thank you for having me. This is wonderful.
Yeah. And please leave us a rating, review, follow, like, subscribe. I'll have all the links in the show notes for all of the things that you can do to take better care of yourself, to learn more about getting access to the programming that you need before you can get access to that funding. And again, we'll be back for part 2 where we'll get more into Omi's story and the ways that she's bringing joy, revenue, impact, not just on the founders, but on the people way beyond. So with that, I'll be back again with another amazing guest to share their story, their journey very soon. Until then, have a beautiful day and think about how you make the world better. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.